Welcome to the SPINDI Community Connections and Dementia podcast. These podcasts are to share the journey of Chinese Wellbeing to raise awareness about dementia in the Chinese community in Liverpool. My name is Dr. Clare Hammerton. I'm the Coproduction and People and Carers Involvement Lead for the SPINDI Dementia Network. I'm here with Burbidge from Chinese Wellbeing and Ruth Eley from Together in Dementia Every Day, TIDE.
Hello, my name's Burbidge and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Chinese Wellbeing. I also chair the diversity subgroup for the Liverpool Dementia Action Alliance, and I'm the strategic co-production partner for the SPINDI network.
Hello, I'm Ruth Eley. I wear several hats at once, and for this purposes of this event, I am the chair of Together in Dementia Every Day, TIDE for short. We're a Liverpool-based charity with a UK-wide reach that works with current and former carers of people with dementia. I'm also the vice chair of the Liverpool Dementia Action Alliance. So in that context, Di and I have known each other for a very long time. TIDE is also a strategic co-production partner for SPINDI.
This is podcast 2, recorded in April 2025, titled Community Trust and Representation. So last time we spoke in podcast 1, we talked about the Community Champions project that you implemented, Di, in relation to the Chinese Wellbeing in 2012. I mean, there's something around who are the dementia champions in order to create trust within the community.
Yeah, I agree, Claire, because the organisations involved were very long-standing organisations in the community, and some of the oldest communities in Liverpool in terms of the Black, Asian and minority ethnic group, the Somali, the African Caribbean, the Chinese community. And we do have the oldest Chinatown in Europe. So these were long-standing communities. Yeah, there was a trust.
Can I echo that in terms of the known and trusted community member? Because TIDE did a piece of work in South Manchester, in Rochdale, and it's on our website. It's called Dementia Dekbal, which means dementia memories. We employed a South Asian man who was a carer, who lived in that community, was well known, trusted, and spoke the languages, so knew how to network with people, how to get the mosque on side, which was very important for this project. So that trusted connector is really vital in these sorts of projects. The champions made some video clips for YouTube, didn't they?
They did.
Let's talk about dementia, which presumably is still there.
They are. And yes, we have got films on Chinese Wellbeing's YouTube that were professionally made. And it was immediately following this big workshop we got together, which I talked about. And then a while later, Michelle saying, yes, I get it. I'm going to look at funding. And in between that time, we did these films with this small pot of money, which kind of kept the champions going. But in the end, people dropped off because there was no funding to pay them. And the amount of work that was coming out of the champions, you can't expect that on a voluntary basis. Only so much you can do as a volunteer. So we lost a few really, really experienced champions at the end. But those films were the key messages that our communities had decided would go into a short film. And basically it was around it's okay to talk about dementia. And we did ours in Cantonese with subtitle in English. And, everyone did it in their own community language. The idea behind those films were to show it in GP practices where we know there's a high patient population from those particular communities. So that when they're sitting there, they'll be able to see a representation from their community talking about dementia in a GP surgery. But that was a little bit too ambitious and that never happened because I think apparently it's very difficult to get anything on those GP surgeries, but they're there on our YouTube.
And maybe now the time is right now, Di, because the primary care networks, most of them, if not all of them, are members of the DAA. We have leadership from the ICB. Let's just think about that again, because they still hold good. We don't need to do them again.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing we've struggled with is getting people in our dementia network living with dementia or their family carers to actually go on film, go on video. No one will go that far. And remember the Welsh photographer, Tag, and he did an amazing newspaper for the DAA, I think it was. And he captured amazing photographs of everyday life for people with living with dementia. And he wanted to do it in the Chinese community. We haven't got to the point in this community yet where they're happy to be featured in a newspaper, a big print, talking about their life living with dementia. But he insisted on coming along. He said, I want to talk to them. And I said, that's fine. Through an interpreter, obviously. And he came, and they would only agree to have the backs of their heads photographed. And so he presents these photographs of just backs of heads. And I said, what have you achieved, really? But that's just one example. Nobody would be photographed. And then we've done another photographic project, and it was to go into the British archives of life living with dementia. And we gave 6 disposable cameras to people living with dementia and asked them to take a photograph every day for 28 days of their life living with dementia. And these were put into beautiful little booklets, their photographs. And we had to ring every single one of them every day to remind them, or their family to remind the person to take the photograph. They did take photographs of family, but when it came to actually the publication of the booklet, which had a bit of their life story in it, they would not agree to having any of the photographs of their family or themselves in the booklet. So it's just photographs of a wardrobe. But anyway, that's the one thing that has always been a difficulty, to try and get somebody to talk openly on camera. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah, I mean, if you think back, Claire, I mean, when my grandmother had Alzheimer's, gosh, so 76, very little information. Nobody talked about dementia. So we had stigma then. We've come an enormous journey, even in the British population, since those times when nobody knew much about it and no one really talked about it. So yeah, we've come a long way. But then if you think about the number of national public health messages that go out, they all miss our Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. They don't reach those people. So an enormous amount of public money goes into raising awareness, and we've come a long way in our sort of society, but those messages have just bypassed those communities. We are where we are. And our Chinese community, our elders tune into Chinese TV. So lots of health messages missed.
Do you mean Chinese TV from China?
Yeah, because they don't speak English, so there's point tuning in, which did cause problems during COVID because people were listening to the rhetoric coming out of China about Western vaccinations. And there was a lot of misinformation that was coming out that way into the community. So that's another story.
There's also a subject here around the bigger picture, how society operates around messaging and dementia. And, we're still talking, aren't we, Di, about data about BAME communities?
Yeah.
Whether it's collected, how it's used, what it says. You've raised this 10 years ago. We're still talking about it because systems maybe they don't see it's important. I don't know, but there's an inertia there about doing stuff to make sure that people from BAME communities are involved, reached, supported, treated, helped, whatever. And it's a big frustration. So I think there's something there about systemic and structural stuff, and how Di's story reflects that, at the micro level.
Yeah.